I'm gonna get really deep into this right now. I've been doing my research, and everybody has a different criteria. But when it comes to the boxing elites and the mainstream, they're gonna pick the American fighter over any fighter that's Puerto Rican because they want to undermine the Puerto Ricans. And I feel that they're not gonna give a great assessment, a fair assessment of who fought the better fighters. And I think they're both great fighters in their own right. Felix Tito Trinidad and Sugar Ray Robinson. They're both great fighters. But if you compare the opponents and the opponents and the champions that the Sugar Ray Robinson fought and the amount of fights that he had versus Felix Tito Trinidad, the amount of fights that he had and the caliber of champions and contenders, undefeated contenders and undefeated champions that he's fought, there's a lot of different variables, and there's a lot of points that we can make for Felix Tito Trinidad being the better fighter, the better resume actually than Sugar Ray Robinson. So here's my assessment. We're talking about Sugar Ray Robinson right now. Sugar Ray Robinson has accumulated 200 fights in his career. And in the long career of Sugar Ray Robinson, he was able to beat 18 world champions. 18 world champions. But what world champions status or elite status did they have? Were they elite? Okay, let's break it down. A lot of them are one-hit wonders. Sammy Angat. 2 world lightweight titles. That's what he got. And Fritzik Civic, 1 world title from 1940 to 1941. Defended it 2 times. And that was it. It was short-lived. Jake LaMotta, 1 world title. 2 years champion, but he was inactive. From 1949 to 1951, Jake LaMotta was champion, and then he lost his belt to Sugar Ray Robinson. So just because you're a champion for 2 years, but you're inactive, doesn't make you qualify you as an elite or a great fighter. Like anybody could hold the belt for 2 years hostage, like Jake LaMotta did, and then lose it to Sugar Ray Robinson after 2 years. Then that's another point that I'm making about Sugar Ray Robinson. Then we got Randy Turpin. Who was Randy Turpin? Who was he? This is the fighters that Sugar Ray Robinson beat. Randy Turpin was champion for only 64 days. 64 days. And then it ended with a rematch with Sugar Ray Robinson. So what does that say? That doesn't say that his opposition was better than Felix Tito Trinidad. No, I think Felix Tito Trinidad's opposition was way better than Sugar Ray Robinson's. I'm not taking nothing away from Sugar Ray Robinson, but I'm just saying it. 84 says hi. At boy hug yay. Hey, question. How do I make friends? People hate me and no one wants me. So how do I make friends? Listen, just be the best version of yourself, and don't let anybody stop you from being the best version of yourself. Don't try to look for friends. Your people will find you. Just be true to yourself, and the people that are made for you will gravitate towards you. Remember, the world is hopeless. The physical world is hopeless, but the hope that we have inside of us is always giving us hope, and it always reflects. You don't see the hope, but you feel it inside of you. You have to carry that hope inside of you and reflect it to the world. That's what you got to do. Don't worry about who hates you or who loves you. When you're true to yourself, people are going to love you for who you are. Never try to impress people. You're never going to impress people. People are always going to find something that they don't like. So never do that. Be the best version of yourself, and never go out of your way to please people, because people are hard to please. You always got to please yourself and do what's right for yourself and be in your highest element and frequency of yourself, and then reflect it to the world, and then the world that's meant for you will come to you. You don't have to look for people. Hope is inside of you, and you reflect it to the world, and it's something that you feel. You don't see it. Hope is something that you don't see, you feel it, because the world is temporary and it's hopeless. But the hope, you have to carry it inside of you, and then you reflect it to the world. Hope is always inside of you. You got to keep that alive, and that's what people fail to understand. Your crowd and your people will always resonate to you if you're true to yourself. All right, so back to my point. All right, look, I'm gonna make my point. So Randy Turpin, it doesn't matter if he won 2 gold medals. It matters what he did in his professional career. That's more important. Randy Turpin only had the belt for 64 days. Only from 1951, from like he actually lost it. He had the championship in 1951, Randy Turpin. So he lost it that same year, 1951. Not 51. In 1951, that same year, he lost it. He won the belt in 1951, and he had the belt for 64 days, Randy Turpin, and then he lost it that same year, 1951, to Sugar Ray Robinson. So yeah, that doesn't qualify you as being an elite if you had a short-lived boxing championship reign. And then he also Rocky Graziano. Oh, people are trying to interfere with my video. All right, subscribe to that channel. Tony also knows boxing. So another person that champion that Sugar Ray Robinson beat was Rocky Graziano. Rocky Graziano, he had the championship belt for 11 months from 1947 to 1958. 1948. He had the belt for 11 months from 1947 to 1948. It was short-lived too. A lot of these fighters that Sugar Ray Robinson beat, they were overrated by the elite. They overrated them. And he won by beating Tony Zale. Rocky Graziano. He beat Tony Zale. Who the hell is Tony Zale? Is Tony Zale somebody worthy of mentioning? All right, who the hell is Tony Zale? So Bobby Olson won the vacant title, middleweight, beating Randy Turpin. Title. He took his title in 1953. He had the title from 1953 to 1955. Bob Olson. Sugar Ray Robinson beat Carmen Basilio, but all these fighters that he fought, they were not long-reign champions. They were not. No, Jenny D84. Also, are you from Thailand? No, I'm not. I'm Puerto Rican, baby. Puerto Rican, 100%. Leon Pryor, 2346. Thanks for tuning into my channel. Says 72 wins, 45 KO. Subscribe to the channel. Tony also knows boxing. Then we got two-time world champion that Gene Fulmer that actually lost to Sugar Ray Robinson as well, and he was champion from 1959 to 1962. And Joey Gordello, he won the world title from December 7th, and he had the belt. He defended it from 1963 to 1965. And Joey Maximum, 1950 to 1952, light heavyweight. He beat Jersey Walcott when he was past his prime, and he beat Sugar Ray Robinson when he was past his prime. These are all fighters that Sugar Ray Robinson beat, and a lot of them didn't have a long title reign. They didn't. And then Sugar Ray Robinson, he beat a lot of fighters that were not undefeated. A lot of fighters that he's faced. There's no undefeated fighter in his record that he faced that was undefeated. Sugar Ray Robinson didn't fight any undefeated fighters. And a lot of his record is a lot of fillers. A lot of fillers that, you know, a lot of people just basically say, oh, based on the names, Rocky Graziano, based on him fighting and beating somebody that was past his prime. Sugar Ray Robinson was not in his prime when he fought Rocky Graziano. If he was in his prime, he wasn't there wasn't many victories that Rocky Graziano accumulated against elite fighters. It was just over one fighter. You know, over one fighter. That's it. So we're looking at the variables here. Felix Tito Trinidad. He faced 5 undefeated fighters. 5 undefeated fighters. He faced Yuriboy Campas, 56-0 with 50 KOs. Yep. He faced David Reed. He was a gold medalist. He was undefeated too. He defended. David Reed defended his belt 2 times before he lost to Felix Tito Trinidad when Tito Trinidad moved up to 154. Fernando Vargas defended his belt 5 times. He was active. In 2 years, he lost when he faced Felix Tito Trinidad, but he defended his belt that he took away from Yuriboy Campas. Yuriboy Campas was another fighter that Felix Tito Trinidad knocked out, and he wasn't champion when Trinidad faced him, but he was champion after that. He won the IBF belt, and he defended it 3 times. Yuriboy Campas. So Remember, and Yuri Boy Campas lost the belt, the IBF belt, to Fernando Vargas. And all these fighters Felix Tito Trinidad beat, they were undefeated. And look at the resume of Felix Tito Trinidad. How many champions has Trinidad faced? Champions. He faced 11. And out of 11 champions, he beat 9. He beat 9. And all the champions and fighters that Felix Tito Trinidad fought were better than Sugar Ray Robinson's opponents that he fought, all the champions that he's fought. You can't compare the champions that Sugar Ray Robinson beat, which were way inferior than Felix Tito Trinidad's champions and fighters that he's faced. That's the facts. But they're not going to give you that. They're not going to tell you the truth. The mainstream is not going to tell you the truth. They're going to overrate these fighters that Sugar Ray Robinson beat to make Sugar Ray Robinson bigger than what he actually was. And if you look at the amount of fights that both had in their careers, Felix Tito Trinidad is number 2 as far as defending his welterweight championship the most. He's number 2. And the one that had the most successful title defenses is Sugar Ray Robinson. He's number 1 at 21 defenses. But against who? And Trinidad had 15 defenses against better fighters than Sugar Ray Robinson. No fighter in Sugar Ray Robinson's career was undefeated when he defended the belt. And if you look at it, he had 200 fights in his total career. You would think that he would accomplish more title defenses and fight better fighters than Felix Tito Trinidad. You would think that he would have more, because Felix Tito Trinidad had 15 successful title defenses at welterweight. He's number 2, and Sugar Ray Robinson is number 1, having 21 title defenses, but he had way more fights than Trinidad. So that tells you that if Felix Tito Trinidad was able to accomplish 15 title defenses in the 48 fight career of his career, in that short period of time, compared to like 200 fight career that Sugar Ray Robinson had, that says a lot about Tito Trinidad and Sugar Ray Robinson. That Sugar Ray Robinson couldn't accomplish so much more. He could have accomplished so much more with 200 fights, and he accomplished 21 defenses. So he has 21 successful defenses in the welterweight division, Sugar Ray Robinson. And Felix Tito Trinidad has 15 defenses and he's number 2 at the most successful title defenses at welterweight. So in a short amount of fights, 48, compared to Sugar Ray Robinson's 200 fights, Felix Tito Trinidad is not far behind from title defenses compared to Sugar Ray Robinson. He has 15 successful title defenses in the welterweight, Felix Tito Trinidad from Puerto Rico. And Sugar Ray Robinson, with 200 fights, way more fights than Felix Tito Trinidad, has only 21 title defenses, 6 more than Felix Tito Trinidad. Yep, 6 more. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 6 more successful title defenses than Felix Tito Trinidad in the welterweight division. So imagine if Felix Tito Trinidad had 200 fights like Sugar Ray Robinson had in welterweight. Felix Tito Trinidad would have surpassed that 21 defenses. He would have got even more if he would have stayed a little longer in the welterweight division. But he rushed his career because Don King had a plan to get him with the most competitive fights as soon as possible and make him retire as soon as possible. There's a lot of stuff behind that story. If you want to look at that story, you can listen to Felix Trinidad, Felix Tito Trinidad's father. He explains why they rushed his career and to get the most fights as much as possible, the most competitive fights, and the most champions in a short period of time. It was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes politically. All right, let me see. Linnea Pryor, 2346. Jake LaMotta was undefeated when he beat Sugar Ray Robinson. Yes, but Jake LaMotta, he didn't beat a lot. He didn't have a long title reign. And if you compare the boxers that Felix Tito Trinidad has fought, they're way more long reign champions like Pernell Whitaker, Camacho, Yuri Campas, Fernando Vargas. Those are more long range champions, and they weren't one hit wonders like most of the fighters that Sugar Ray Robinson beat. You got to look at the trajectory and what they've accomplished. Trinidad stayed 9 years undefeated from 1992 to 2001. Robinson stayed 3 years undefeated and lost after 40 fights. After 40 fights, yeah, he lost. He had his first loss against Jake LaMotta. But when he fought Jake LaMotta, he wasn't in his prime. Like, Sugar Ray Robinson was not in his prime. He was not. And you could make a case that Felix Tito Trinidad is a way has a way better resume than Sugar Ray Robinson. And Felix Tito Trinidad only had 48 fights, and he was able to accomplish number 2, the most successful title defenses at welterweight, only 6 less than Sugar Ray Robinson with more fights. Sugar Ray Robinson had 200 fights total, and he was only able to accomplish 6 more successful title defenses at welterweight than Felix Tito Trinidad. That says a lot about Tito Trinidad in a short period of time, what he was able to accomplish. So I feel a lot of people undermine Felix Tito Trinidad, and the American boxing pundits do not want to give Felix Tito Trinidad the credit that he deserves. He has a way better resume than Sugar Ray Robinson. That's what I feel. Felix Tito Trinidad he's number 2 at the most successful title defenses at welterweight. I think he's the greatest welterweight champion and junior middleweight. Jose Napoles is number 3 as the most successful title defenses at welterweight, and Pernell Whitaker is number 5 at the most successful welterweight title defenses. So we're talking about a fighter like Tito Trinidad that only had 48 fights total in his career and was able to accomplish 15 successful title defenses, number 2 of all welterweight champions. And then we got number 1, Sugar Ray Robinson, at 21 title defenses successfully at welterweight division. But you got to look at it, the different variables. He had way more fights than Tito Trinidad, 200. Sugar Ray Robinson. And Felix Tito Trinidad had 48 fights total. So you got to look at the variables. I think Felix Tito Trinidad's resume is better than Sugar Ray Robinson's resume, especially the opponents and the fighters that he's fought. I think Felix Tito Trinidad, if you look at Oscar De La Hoya had 10 world championships in 6 weight classes. De La Hoya had way more championships than any opponent Sugar Ray Robinson beat. No opponent that Sugar Ray Robinson beat had 10 world championships in 6 different weight classes. No, a lot of them were one-hit wonders. I said it. Tony also knows boxing. Subscribe to that channel. A lot of the Sugar Ray Robinson's opponents were one-hit wonders. If you compare the championships that they had in the total by individuals, he accumulated all the opponents that Sugar Ray Robinson beat in an accumulation of 10 individual fighters. They had 10 championships. No fighter that Sugar Ray Robinson beat had more than 2 world championships. They had like two. They were 2-time world champions, but they didn't accomplish 10 championships in 6 weight classes like Oscar De La Hoya did. So Felix Tito Trinidad accomplished beating opponents, champions that had way more world champions than any of the opponents that Sugar Ray Robinson beat. I said it. Tony also knows boxing. You're tuning into my channel. Subscribe to the channel. Tony also knows boxing. I'm keeping it real, and a lot of people don't want to give Felix Tito Trinidad the credit that he deserves. The American boxing pundits, they overshadow, like to undermine what Felix Tito Trinidad has accomplished, but they like to overemphasize and over-glamorize the opponents that Sugar Ray Robinson beat, when Sugar Ray Robinson did not beat great elite fighters in comparison to Felix Tito Trinidad's opponents and champions that he's beaten. There's no undefeated fighter that Sugar Ray Robinson ever faced. He never faced an undefeated fighter. And Felix Tito Trinidad faced 5 undefeated fighters. He is the better resume. Felix Tito Trinidad has a better resume than Sugar Ray Robinson. I'm not taking away nothing from Sugar Ray Robinson, but I'm just calling it what it is. Felix Tito Trinidad had 5 undefeated champions in his resume. Yuri Boy Campas. Well, I don't want to talk about just the undefeated fighters. I want to talk about all the champions that he's had under his belt. Yuri Boy Campas, Blocker, Maurice Blocker, Camacho, Whitaker, David Reed, Fernando Vargas, William Joppy. He fought Bernard Hopkins. There's a lot of fighters. He fought in his whole career. He had faced Winky Wright as well. He didn't beat Winky Wright. He didn't beat Bernard Hopkins. But those fighters that he lost to, Felix Tito Trinidad, he moved up in weight to challenge them, and they are Hall of Famers. And their record was way better than any of the champions that Sugar Ray Robinson faced. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it a buck. There were a lot of the fighters that Sugar Ray Robinson beat were one-hit wonders, and none of them were undefeated. And I believe that It's not only about the undefeated record. It's about the amount of time that Bernard Hopkins remained champion at 160, and Felix Trinidad faced him when he had like a lot of title defenses already, and I feel that the people that beat Felix Tito Trinidad were physically bigger than him. He moved up 3 different weight classes. Yeah, so subscribe to the channel. Tony also knows boxing. You're tuning into my channel. That's what I got right now. How many Hall of Famers did Felix Tito Trinidad face? Felix Tito Trinidad faced, let me see. I see Maurice Blanca, Oscar De La Hoya, Pernell Whitaker, Hector Camacho, Fernando Vargas. He's faced Oscar De La Hoya. He's got like 6 or 7 Hall of Famers on his record. But if you look at the Hall of Famers that Felix Tito Trinidad beat, and you compare it to Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Robinson beat a lot of one-hit wonders. That Fritz Zivic, he's not somebody that people like clamor and talk highly about. They over glamorize his victories with those guys, but those guys were not top tier compared to like the fighters that Felix Tito Trinidad faced, like Rocky Graciano, Randy Turpin. Randy Turpin was champion for 64 days. 64 days. Come on, man. And then we got Jake LaMotta. He was champion for 2 years, but he was inactive in those 2 years that he was champion. Jake LaMotta from 1949 to 1951, and he was champion, but he wasn't active. He defended his belt for the first time, and he lost the first time he defended his belt when he fought Sugar Ray Robinson. So that doesn't count. Look at Fernando Vargas. He was champion for 2 years, but he defended that belt that he won from Yuri Boy Campas 5 times. So he wasn't a one-hit wonder. He beat Ike Corte. He beat Winky Wright. Fernando Vargas is a Hall of Famer. He beat fighters that were like Ike Corte was a monster. He's a beast. Winky Wright, a beast. He's a Hall of Famer. So Felix Tito Trinidad beat fighters that beat Hall of Famers, and he beat champions that beat Hall of Famers, and he beat champions that are Hall of Famers, and the champions that Felix Tito Trinidad beat Hall of Famers. Come on, man. Let's give Tito Trinidad the credit he deserves. Subscribe to my channel. Tony also knows boxing. You're tuning into my channel. I believe that Henry Armstrong, when he lost to, let me read it over here. Henry Armstrong, let me see over here the stats. Henry Armstrong. Subscribe to that channel. Tony also knows boxing. You're tuning into my channel. Subscribe to the channel. Tony also knows boxing. Yes, Henry Armstrong, when he was a 3-division weight champion in 3 different weight classes, and I forgot who he faced when he lost, but Henry Armstrong was a champion at featherweight, lightweight, and welterweight, and he had more success at the welterweight division. But Henry Armstrong, when he lost to one of the champions that Sugar Ray Robinson beat, he was already out of his prime. I'm trying to think of the champion that Henry Armstrong lost to, but the fighter that Henry Armstrong lost to, I'm trying to remember his name. He was the guy that he lost to wasn't a guy that was a long reigning champion either. And these were all fighters that Sugar Ray Robinson had under his belt. But I think that they give Sugar Ray Robinson too much credit as the best welterweight champion of all time. I think that if you compare Felix Tito Trinidad's resume to Sugar Ray Robinson, I think that Felix Tito Trinidad's resume is way better than Sugar Ray Robinson in the short career that Felix Tito Trinidad had. He only had 48 fights in his whole career, and he was able to accomplish having a better resume with fighters like Ricardo Mayorga, another fighter that Felix Tito Trinidad faced. So we're talking about Ricardo Mayorga. He beat Vernon Forrest 2 times. 2 times. Undefeated fighter, Vernon Forrest. Look. Felix Tito Trinidad beat Ricardo Mayorga, Oscar De La Hoya, Yuri Boy Campa, Maurice Blanca, Camacho, Whitaker, David Reed, Fernando Vargas, William Jappy. And then he faced Bernard Hopkins and Winky Wright. Out of all those 11 champions that he's fought, he's beat 9 of them. Sugar Ray Robinson's resume is not better than Felix Tito Trinidad's as far as the champions that Felix Tito Trinidad beat. Camacho, an all-time legend, Whitaker, another legend. And when Felix Tito Trinidad fought Whitaker, Whitaker was more in his prime than the opponent that Sugar Ray Robinson beat, which was Henry Armstrong. I think Henry Armstrong was no longer in his prime when Sugar Ray Robinson beat him. And I believe that in the 1940s, like 1940, like right after 1940, from what I read, that Henry Armstrong was no longer the best version of himself. He was already in decline. He kept fighting for a few more years, but Sugar Ray Robinson beat Henry Armstrong, and he was way more in decline than when Felix Tito Trinidad faced Whitaker. Whitaker was more in his prime than Henry Armstrong was when he faced Sugar Ray Robinson than when Whitaker faced Felix Tito Trinidad. Those are facts. Look it up. It's hard to find this information because a lot of people want to like gatekeep AI. They want to control like what the narrative is. Like the elite always want to like pick the American fighter. They never want to pick the Puerto Rican fighter over the American fighter. So they want to overemphasize Sugar Ray Robinson's accomplishments, and they never want to give Felix Tito Trinidad, a Puerto Rican, the credit that he deserves because they want to give it to an American before they give it to somebody that's a second-class citizen American, because America has Puerto Ricans as second-class citizens, and they're exploiting Puerto Rico's natural resources, and they're getting tax exemptions for the United States corporations, and they're controlling Puerto Rico with the politicians in Puerto Rico working in cahoots with the United States. So that's political, but they never wanted to give Puerto Ricans the credit that they deserve as people, as human beings. They're still in the insular cases as well, politically. Like, you know, they say that Puerto Ricans have alien races because we're not white, and only the United States Supreme Court can create laws, and Puerto Rican politicians can only present laws because they're not really Americans. They're third-class citizens. I say third-class citizens because of the race of Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans are mixed with African, Indian, and Spanish, and they have us as inferior, and they say only the United States Supreme Court can create laws. But Puerto Ricans are under control of the United States and the Anglo government. So that's the reason why that Puerto Rico is an unincorporated territory, because of our race, and the United States exploits the tax exemptions of Puerto Rico. So they do it in sports too. They don't want to give us the credit. They have Felix Tito Trinidad as top 20 pound for pound. I think Felix Tito Trinidad should be top 10 or top 5 pound for pound. I'm not disregarding Mayweather or the other fighters like, you know, Carlos Monzon, or Pernell Whitaker, or Mayweather and Sugar Ray Robinson. I'm not discrediting them, but I'm just calling it for what it is. They don't give credit to the fighters that like from Puerto Rico that have accomplished a lot. They don't look at it. The criteria is different for when it comes to an American fighter as opposed to a Puerto Rican fighter. So they're very biased. The United States media and elite that decide who goes to be pound for pound number one, they're very biased, and their criteria is totally off base, and it's not based on the level of opposition. They just overemphasize the greatness of the opponents that Sugar Ray Robinson faced, but they're not as great as Felix Tito Trinidad's resume. If you look at the resume, you compare it, and if you do your research, you do your homework, you'll see that Felix Tito Trinidad has faced better fighters, undefeated fighters, and better champions, more longer reigning champions than Sugar Ray Robinson's resume of opponents, that the champions that he's faced. And he's never faced an undefeated fighter ever in his career, Sugar Ray Robinson. So it's not only about the undefeated record, but it's also about the longevity and the status. And if you look at how many championships Oscar De La Hoya has gotten in 6 weight classes, 10 world championships, there's no opponent that Sugar Ray Robinson has beaten that has that many world championships. Nobody. But Felix Tito Trinidad's record speaks volumes. His champion that he beat, Oscar De La Hoya, Felix Tito Trinidad beat Oscar De La Hoya. That champion, Oscar De La Hoya, has won 10 world championships in 6 weight classes. That's more of an accomplishment than what Sugar Ray Robinson has accomplished, because the fighters that he's fought and he's beaten, they have never accomplished more than 2 world championships or 3. That's it. They haven't accomplished 10 world championships in 6 weight classes. De La Hoya did. Jenny D84, Tony is GOAT. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel. Tony also knows boxing. You're tuning into my channel. I'm just calling a spade a spade. I'm calling it for what it is. And a lot of people probably gonna get upset with what I'm saying. But there's a lot of different criterias, you know. And boxing, there's a lot of times the people that are elite that choose who goes in the Hall of Fame, who is the best pound for pound. They're biased. They're gonna make sure that the American fighter is the top fighter than somebody that's from a unincorporated territory, like from Puerto Rico, like Felix Tito Trinidad. But we're looking at a fighter like Felix Tito Trinidad. He's accomplished so much outside of the ring as well. He's done so much for Puerto Rico, and he's united Puerto Ricans, and he's also made people that are Puerto Rican and non-Puerto Rican want to watch boxing that don't watch boxing. And he's very influential and very impactful, and the energy that he brought to the ring. And I feel like Max Kellerman is one dirty, corrupt, dishonest person, because he undermines what Felix Tito Trinidad has accomplished. He tries to say that Gennady Golovkin is one of the greatest middleweights ever when he hasn't fought anybody of note. Gennady Golovkin stayed in the same weight class his whole career, 160. He's trash. You cannot compare Gennady Golovkin and Felix Tito Trinidad. As far as Felix Tito Trinidad being the greatest at a weight class, I would say that he's the greatest at welterweight and junior middleweight. Definitely. I would definitely put him against Sugar Ray Robinson, and I know a lot of people would disagree, but there's a lot of people that would agree, but they're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to speak their mind about it because it's not the popularity consensus point of view based on what the elites choose as the better pound for pound from America. There's not a popular opinion that they want to go with the popular opinion just because that's what the mainstream assessed, that Sugar Ray Robinson was the greatest welterweight of all time. But I think that Felix Tito Trinidad should be the greatest welterweight of all time and junior middleweight of all time, because as I'm saying, if you compare it to Mayweather, like Mayweather didn't defend his belt as much, the welterweight belt, as much as Tito Trinidad did. So I would say Felix Tito Trinidad gets the nod over him, you know. And we're talking about Manny Pacquiao. There's a lot of people that would debate, but you got to look at it like, you know, there's a lot of controversy with saying that Manny Pacquiao used steroids. I don't know how true that is, but you know, you never know. But I'm not going to take away from Manny Pacquiao. But I think that Felix Tito Trinidad could go in the conversation of the greatest welterweight champion or junior middleweight champions ever. He could go in that conversation. If you compare the record, if you're comparing with Sugar Ray Robinson's record and Felix Tito Trinidad's record, and the amount of fights that Sugar Ray Robinson had, 200 fights, and Felix Trinidad had 48 fights, and in a short period of time, with 48 fights, Felix Tito Trinidad was able to have #2 most successful welterweight title defenses, 15 title defenses with 48 fights alone. And with Sugar Ray Robinson, with 200 fights, he was able to accomplish 21 successful defenses at the welterweight division. But he had 200 more fights than Felix Tito Trinidad. So he only has 6 more successful world title defenses than Felix Tito Trinidad with 200 fights in his career. That's not fair. That's a disadvantage that Felix Tito Trinidad was able to accomplish almost as much as Sugar Ray Robinson with less fights. So that really tells you that Felix Tito Trinidad is actually better than Sugar Ray Robinson. That's what I think. Subscribe to the channel. Tony also knows boxing. You're tuning into my channel. Subscribe to that channel. I'm always going to say what's true and what I believe is true. Everybody has a different opinion. Everybody has their own criteria, but they're basing it on the popular opinion of the elites who chose who is the best pound-for-pound fighter and over-glamorizing the opponents that Sugar Ray Robinson faced. They're over-glamorizing a lot of his opponents. Because if you look at the opponents that he's faced, a lot of them are one-hit wonders or two-hit wonders. They weren't successful. Look at Randy Turpin, 64 days champion. And he only defended the championship once. He only defended it once against Sugar Ray Robinson and lost in the rematch. If you're not active, those 2 years that you had the championship doesn't really count for nothing. That's what I say. Subscribe to the channel. Tony also knows boxing. You're tuning into my channel. I know a lot of people are going to get upset, but this is what I feel, and this is how I feel, and I'm going to say what I need to say. And a lot of people are undermining Felix Tito Trinidad's accomplishments, and so is Max Kellerman. I think Max Kellerman is overrated. He should be fired. The way he was fired from boxing, he should be fired. The way he was fired from basketball, he should be fired from boxing. That's what I said. Tony Also Knows Boxing. Subscribe to that channel. Tony Also Knows Boxing. You're tuning into my channel. That's how I feel. That's the